All right, so first of all, shout out to brother Bo9263. I saw this particular video about Jim Brown and his take on the Colin Kaepernick situation. I saw it on his channel, and I just want to give my take on the situation. So shout out to him for I don't know if he broke the story or not, but I saw it on his channel first. Y'all check out his channel. It's Bo9263. But anyway, I'm going to give my take. I'm going to play the video clip of Jim Brown giving his take on the Colin Kaepernick situation. And, I'm going to give you guys my commentary afterwards. But I'm going to say this, and I've been saying this for ever since the situation happened with Colin Kaepernick this year, that, ultimately we need to start our own NFL league. It's just that simple. We need to start our own league. We can't, continue to beg for jobs about, Colin Kaepernick needs to be accepted. They're not going to accept him. It's just that simple. They want to protect their bottom dollar. And, the NFL owners, the white-owned NFL owners and the NFL executives, they feel that Colin Kaepernick is a threat to their money, and they don't want to make that threat to their money a problem. So, listen, I accept the fact that Colin Kaepernick will never play in the NFL, and we need an alternative. We need a black-owned NFL, a black-owned football league. All right? But before I get into that, before I get further into that, let me play this clip of Jim Brown giving his take on the Colin Kaepernick situation, and I'll come back with my commentary. All right, here we go.
So we're here with the great Jim Brown. Jim, break down from your perspective. I think you have a very unique perspective on this, the Colin Kaepernick situation. Whether or not you think he should be playing, what this says about the state of the NFL today, views.
Well, Colin has to make up his mind whether he's truly an activist or whether he's a football player. If you try to be both in a situation, football is commercial, you have owners, you have fans, and you want to honor that if you're making that kind of money. If you have a cause, I think you should organize it, present it in a manner where it's not only you sitting on one knee, but a lot of people that is going to get behind each other and do something about it. If I ask you one question, who is calling on to follow what he's talking about? So many of us have always done it, and we're here to help anyone that wants to do it. But I would advise a young man, if you're a football player, play football. If you're going to be a real activist, use your money, use your notoriety. I didn't want to make it this long, but it does have meaning to me, and I think that I want to be in his corner, and I do think God bless him, but that's not my leadership.
You don't believe that in today's NFL you could be both activist and football player?
I think we're always an activist and a football player, but I think you have to understand there's intelligence that's involved, okay? I can't be two things at once that contradict each other. If I sign for money, then the people I sign with, they have rules and regulations. But I'm gonna give you the real deal. I'm an American. I don't desecrate my flag and my national anthem. I'm not gonna do anything against the flag and the national anthem. I'm gonna work within those situations. But this is my country, and I'll work out the problem, but I'll do it in an intelligent manner.
Well said.
I'm going to say this. First of all, Jim Brown is a legend in terms of football. He had an illustrious career and after football as well, because he actually, quit football while still in his physical prime and went on to become an actor and all that kind of stuff, and doing activism, things of that nature, So the man has an illustrious career during football and post-football. With that being said, And also, not only that, the man is in his 80s, and I hope to live and have that much wisdom at that age. But with that being said, Jim Brown, I totally disagree with his statement. You were born into a system of Jim Crow. You were born into a system of segregation. You were born into a system where, and we still are today, where we are inferior to the dominant white society. So we were always fighting to be included in their particular ecosystem of equality. We wanted to fight for justice, which is why the civil rights movement came into place during your era. So we will always continue to fight while we had our professional jobs. We still wanted to have equal rights. So we were always being professionals and fighting for justice at the same time. And in 2017 is no different. That's exactly what Colin Kaepernick has been doing. These white supremacists want to make it about, there's an NFL executive or anonymous source that was an NFL executive said that Colin Kaepernick is doing this for a personal agenda, and they always want to make it seem like that. That narrative has always been coming from the dominant white society. President Lyndon B. Johnson, J. Edgar Hoover, they wanted to target people like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, et cetera, and attack them because of what they were trying to do in their eyes was a personal agenda. It wasn't about equal rights or black society issues, civil unrest. It wasn't about that. To them, they thought it was just a personal agenda at that time. And, today is no different. So that kind of thinking, is a buck dancing mentality. What he said that, and again, this kind of thinking is very, very normal to black people. We're scared Negroes. We're Negroes who have mental disorders. Again, Stockholm syndrome, cognitive dissonance, post-traumatic slavery disorder. We have these mental disorders that we can't seem to shake at all, and that we don't acknowledge that we have. Right? So, like I said before, man, Jim Brown had an illustrious career, and, his take about Colin Kaepernick, I completely disagree. He also said that he would never disrespect the flag and the national anthem. I'm not surprised by that. This guy's been through a lot. Again, he was born during the time of Jim Crow, of segregation, of just overt racism. He lived through that. So he has a lot of wisdom on that. But yet he still says that he would never disrespect the flag when, this flag and the so-called national anthem was built on tyranny, was built on murder, was built on the backs of our ancestors. That's what that flag represents. He knows that. But guys like him and many of us who are classified as black or African American, we suffer from mental disorders such as Stockholm syndrome, where we can't seem to shake and discredit our oppressors. And let me remind you, this document here that I've always talked about. Okay, this is the document from 1967. The National Advisory Commission on Civil Disorders. All right. Commissioned by President Lyndon B. Johnson at the time. Wanted to find out why there was so much civil unrest in the 1960s during the height of the civil rights era. And let me remind you again, the basic findings of this document during that time and of today, because it's even worse. All right. Says here. Quote, "This is our basic conclusion. Our nation is moving toward two societies." Y'all see that here? I'm gonna scroll in so y'all can see that. I'll read it again. This is our basic conclusion. Our nation is moving towards two societies. One black, one white, separate and unequal. Okay? And they say here, this was a reaction to last summer's disorders has quickened the movement and deepened the division. Discrimination and segregation have long permeated much of American life. They now threaten the future of every American. Okay? This was in the 60s. No different today. No damn different today. It's even worse. But yet, we can't do the same thing that our ancestors did in the 60s, right? Oh, we don't want to piss off our oppressors, our slave masters. You know, that kind of thinking, like I said, you know, it's buck dancing, it's coon talk, it's scared Negro talk. It's, you know, equivalent to a house Negro. And I'm not even gonna say a field Negro. Field Negroes are, in terms of hierarchy, they are the least respected slaves. The house Negroes are more respected than the field Negroes, right? But a house Negro, you know, who is proud to serve his slave master. Let's just say the house Negro has another house Negro that works with him. And the other one is like, well, you know, hey, brother, we need to just leave and search for freedom. We can escape our slave master, right? And the other Negroes, like, the other slave is like, nah, brother, man, we need to stay here. Our slave master, he give us good food, good housing, good clothes on our back. You know, that kind of talk. It's just scared Negro talk. And that's exactly how Jim Brown sounds. You know, I mean, this guy lived through the Jim Crow era, lived through the civil rights segregation era. You know, he played through the height of that. You have athletes that were, you know, trying to, you know, fight for equal rights and integrating the sport of American football, basketball, baseball, etc., while being a professional athlete. But yeah, we can't do it today. We can't fight for equal rights today. And I think, you know, ultimately, you know, we'll never get equal rights until we actually separate and have our own resources. We're not equal at all to the dominant white society. We are still inferior. We're still 3/5 of a person. And that's the reality of the situation. So I think, you know, for me, integration into the dominant white society was our downfall towards black society, because we were at our height when we were separated. Check Black Wall Street. We were at our height economically when we were spending and taking care of our own resources. Our dollar was circulating in our community, and we were independent and wealthy amongst our own resources. That's what we need to continue to do today, which is why I mentioned about starting our own football league. You know, we need to start our own football league. The average NFL career is 3 years. And, you know, a plethora of players get cut from NFL teams left and right. There's no guaranteed contracts. Coupled with the fact that you have a high injury rate, you're pretty much guaranteed to be injured in the NFL. And again, like I said, there's no guaranteed contract. So having our own league, you know, it's a great idea, but obviously it's going to be very hard without capital and resources and a collective effort from us to start our own league. We need players as well. So the players who, you know, like I said before in my last video, Ice Cube started his basketball league called the Big Three, which this year became, you know, very successful. Why can't we start our own football league? It doesn't even have to be a full, you know, 11-on-11 football. It could be like, what, you know, 6-on-6 or whatever the case may be. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as the NFL, but just an alternative. But again, we have a lot of scared Negroes under mental disorders that will never convert over and quit taking millions of dollars, or so-called millions of dollars, because most of these NFL players aren't millionaires. Like, a majority of them are not. But they would never risk their paycheck for independence, is my point. They would never do it. guys like Jim Brown, old and new players have the same mentality, the same scared mentality, right? Scared to take a risk for independence. Scared to sacrifice their paycheck for independence. Because, again, depending on their resources is a form of a mental disorder. It's Stockholm syndrome. When you're so dependent on the white man paying you, when you're so dependent on the white man's resources, including YouTube, right? I'm still relying on YouTube to make sure my content, my intellectual property is uploaded so you guys can hear. But ultimately, I know we need to have our black-owned equivalent to YouTube, which is why we need to support our brother Daryl Cluis with Black Spot TV. I'll make a separate video about that. But shout out to that brother. But again, independence and separating from the dominant white society is our ultimate, in my opinion, our only way that we can thrive economically. But you got so many scared Negroes and Bugdads and coons out there that will never consider that alternative. The same scared Negroes that think that LeVar Ball is doing something wrong because they rather see him, have his kids signed to Nike and Under Armour and Adidas because they said he's missing out on millions of dollars. That's the sacrifice you make when you go independence. You sacrifice millions of dollars to make ultimately billions of dollars. That's what Phil Knight did. He started from somewhere, right? He started from the bottom, sacrificed a lot of money, and guess what? He's richer, more wealthier than Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is a household name around the world. But if Phil Knight was standing right next to Michael Jordan, you think people would know who Phil Knight was? But Phil Knight is way, way richer than Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan can't break off of a Jordan brand. No. He still has a partnership with Nike. Phil Knight makes the majority of the shares, the profit shares, through Jordan brand. You see? So independence, again, is the key to economic freedom amongst our people classified as black or African American. That's just my opinion. All right. So, like I said, having our own football league, I think, is a great alternative to the NFL. I'm sure, first of all, I would never watch the NFL again. That's number one. I would never watch it. Never watch a game at all. I'm not supporting it. And I think that a black-owned football league will be a great alternative. But you can't start that without a collective group effort, without capital, without resources, and without players. I would like to see, again, like I said, there's a ton of NFL players, black players, that get cut from teams left and right because the average NFL career is 3 years and there's no guaranteed contracts. So we can have a lot of players come into that league, our black-owned league, and start playing. Right? You got guys like, again, Colin Kaepernick, Mike Vick, who's out. And I'm pretty sure he feels he can still play. And having an alternative league that's American-based for black players is great, in my opinion. But you got too many scared Negroes that do not want to see that happen, and they're still dependent on the dominant white society's resources. So it is what it is. But anyway, family, those are my thoughts on the Jim Brown situation, where he talked about Colin Kaepernick and his views on that. Leave your comments down below about what you think about what Jim Brown said. And let me know what you guys think about the march and the protest and all that stuff. Like I said before, I it's cool that you want to march and protest and go in front of the NFL headquarters. I just don't think it's good, in my opinion, begging for jobs and just being docile and submissive to their resources. I just think in order for us to thrive, we need to start our own league and not depend on their resources. That's just my opinion. Just completely separate from the NFL. All right. So anyway, family, those are my thoughts on that. Leave your comments down below in the comment section. Until next time, family, Chauncey, a.k.a. the Black Separatist, signing out. Peace.